Welcome to Radio Murchie's Leaders and Legends. This is Steve Rao, the host of the show, and today we're all getting ready for the U.S. Open. I got my U.S. Open hat on, I got my U.S. Open shirt on, and this is being listened to around the country, the Triangle region's largest South Asian radio station, but we're also being listened to in Baltimore, Philadelphia, Dallas, around the country. And we have with us a group of my best friends, Andy Andrews. Hopefully we'll have a lot of people chiming in on the Facebook. I see a lot of tennis players out there. But Andy Andrews was a former ATP tennis professional. He was a former member of the USTA Board, the United States Tennis Association. And today he's the CEO of Dominion Realty, one of the most successful real estate development companies in North Carolina, probably the country. So Andy, welcome to the show. And sorry we couldn't be up in the Flushing Meadows together, but I'm bringing Flushing to Raleigh and Morrisville by wearing my shirt and hat to watch the matches tonight. So,
well, thanks for having me, Steve. What an unusual U.S. Open. Not like the times that we went and it had the crowd was so exciting, but it sure is still fun to watch.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, the unusual U.S. Open, and the title of this is a Fireside Chat. We've got about 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. For those of you listening, it's going to be about 12 minutes live on the radio, and we're going to broadcast this again at 4 o'clock on Sunday for you to listen to Andy. And then the rest is just going to be a fireside chat with people on the Facebook and social media streams. So first of all, Andy, if you could just let people know a little bit about your background, you know, when you started playing tennis, your time on the tour, and then you're an NC State graduate. Played at NC State, and then talk a little bit about where, you know, how you translated that into business, what you're doing at Dominion. Great.
Yeah, sure, Stevie. You know, I took my first lessons when I was 9 years old, and just really fell in love with the game, and you know, practiced a lot for some reason, just to really enjoy the hard work that went into tennis, and played it all through high school. Played a lot of tournaments, local tournaments, and regional tournaments, and then national tournaments. And as I got a little older, I, you know, had a desire to play in college, and was fortunate enough to go to NC State and play, and where we won a few ACC titles and played in the NCAA finals. And you know, after spending all that time playing in the sport, I thought it would be it'd be a shame not to give it a try and try to play professionally and play Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. And so I was fortunate enough to, at 21 years old, set out and get to go play on the tour. You know, I was a two-time All-American at NC State, so I had some experience. I was pretty decent. Back then, there were, you know, in the top 100 in the world, there were 42 Americans, and today there are 10 Americans in the men's side in the top 100. So there were a lot of us on the tour traveling around the world, and it was hard work, but it sure was a lot of fun. I was fortunate enough to play all the Grand Slams and singles and doubles, and got the semis, U.S. Open, finals at Australian and doubles, and you know, just had a great time. I was fortunate enough to play doubles with my teammate John Sadri, who ended up being, you know, top 14 in the world in singles, and we had a great career together. And then all of a sudden, my career was over after about 3.5 years on the tour. I broke my thumb, and it didn't heal properly, so. It just wasn't worth staying out there and trying because I wasn't healthy. So I got out of the tour, and, you know, tennis taught me a lot. It taught me how to compete. It taught me how to strategize. It taught me about setting goals for myself. It taught me about overcoming adversity. It taught me about, you know, learning from defeats and never giving up. And it taught me about trying to get better every day. And so I took that philosophy, hard work, which, you know, tennis, individual sports all sports are hard work to be good at it, but tennis especially is hard work. And I took that mentality into business and just decided I was going to work really hard and learning the business that I loved, which happened to be, I wanted to be a developer. And, you know, I just decided I was going to learn all the aspects of the development business, and it took me a while. I stayed with a company for 19 years and learning the different trades and working really, really hard, a lot of hours. 12-hour day wasn't anything out of the ordinary for me. And then, you know, we started this company in 2006 called Dominion Realty Partners. We're in 12 cities in 3 states. And, you know, if it weren't for tennis, I know we wouldn't have been as successful as we are. And I've just been fortunate because, you know, I grew up dreaming of getting to go play Wimbledon or dreaming to get to go play the US Open. And then to actually go do it was something you never forget for the rest of your life. And then I dreamed of, you know, of creating tall buildings and creating cool facilities and to be able to do that. So I've been fortunate enough to sort of actually live 2 dreams. And so
that's amazing.
It all comes back to tennis. So I was taught, you know, to focus and be determined and not give up and improve every day. And, you know, there's something, there's an old saying in tennis is you build on your strengths and defend your weaknesses. And in reality, work or in life, you got to do that same thing. You know, you can't be good at everything. So you have to find out what you're really good at and try to perfect that, and then defend the things that you're not really good at and not fall into a trap that way. So, you know, I've been fortunate. I've been around the world 10 times. I've been to every state in the United States. It's just been a real fortunate situation for me. And then I got involved with the USTA.
Yeah, and you were involved in the board, so you were really involved as a developer, bringing your experience on some of the restaging of the courts, the grandstand, the Louis Armstrong Stadium, right? And
yeah, they asked me to get on the board about 10 years ago, and I worked my way up to first vice president, and I oversaw the $1 billion transformation of the USTA, putting the 2 roofs on at the Flushing Meadows, and then building the home of American tennis down in Orlando, the 100-court facility down there, and then improving Cincinnati. So I brought it was quite an honor to be asked. I was voted in to be chairman, but my daughter passed away 2 years ago, and I thought it was more important to be with her the last couple of years of her life than to be chairman of the USTA. So I gave that up to spend some quality time with my daughter, and best decision I ever made. So,
we're so sorry for your loss, and you got a great family. Your son's a pro golfer, Bo. Now he's the coach at University of Tennessee's golf program, right?
Yep, sure is. Really enjoying that. He's always wanted to be a coach, and so here he starts his dream. So it's pretty cool.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful. Before we let you go, the radio, we're going to continue. One question that came in, but I want to ask a question because we have a huge Indian community who listens to this. So you knew the Armitage brothers. You knew Vijay Anand. You know Stephen. You've been to India. Did you ever play in India?
No, they didn't have anything. They had a satellite tour there, but I did not go to the satellite tour.
Okay.
Did not have a major event there. I knew Krishnan.
Krishnan, yes.
He played the same time I did. We traveled a lot together, and I knew the Armitage brothers very well. And then Stephen, obviously, I worked with him when he was at the USTA. He's one of my favorites, a Duke graduate. And the tour back then was very. There was a contingency of Indian players, very talented back then, strong players. So
we just had we thank you for your service on the board, and it's amazing. Hopefully, Andy and I are working on doing an exhibition maybe after COVID. And we'd love to bring like one of these players back for a nice exhibition to raise money for cancer research. And we did one at NC State a few years ago at Isner. So hopefully we can do something like that eventually. And go Pack, by the way, whenever I'm with Andy, I usually wear my NC State stuff, but today I wear my US Open stuff. So.
We got a football season coming up. Thank goodness.
I know. I got a daughter in Carolina. My daughter's in Carolina, but our son wants to go to State. So real quickly, so the question, before we let the radio go, the question came in about COVID-19 and, do you think the winner of the tournament and men's and women's, is that going to put an asterisk by their name that they didn't win the US Open, or is it just a win is a win and hey, you put the trophy up there and you win the US Open?
If I were playing and a win would be a win, I'd love to have that trophy on my mantelpiece, whether anybody was in the stands or not, they had I don't remember, it was a long time ago. It was prior to when I got on the tour, they had the strike. And there were winners of Grand Slams during the strike when not a lot of players played. and they still got the trophy on their mantelpiece. So
Yeah, so it doesn't,
yeah, I think it is different, but I think it actually is probably helping a lot of players because
Really?
there's some players that feed off of the crowd, and there's some players that get nervous on the crowd, and the crowd might not be behind you. So you never know. Now you're out there it's mano a mano. You're playing the person across the net from you, and there's nothing in the stands that could bother you.
Do you believe that tennis is hurt by the fact that it's not generating a lot of revenue at the collegiate level compared to like the big sports like basketball and football? Or
Yeah, I mean, it's a non-revenue producing sport. It's not, teams don't usually carry 50 people on a team. They're carrying like 9 players on a team. So it's not a real expensive sport for the universities to have. I think that, obviously all the universities are struggling right now with their revenues. They're going to lose money this year because of COVID. And we just hope that, they don't get rid of their tennis programs. There have been a few programs. UVA was a program that they actually canceled their tennis about 20 years ago. And then the alumni came back and endowed all the tennis spots. So they recreated their program. They ended up winning 4 national titles. So, even if even if a program is canceled, I think if the alumni want to, they can get the program back at the school.
Last question before we let the radio go, and we're gonna continue this town hall for a few more minutes. You already talked about in the beginning, but for those kids that are listening today, and people trying to make it, and well, I'm gonna combine both questions in the interest of time. What advice would you have on facing adversity, that small businesses having trouble, that are mentally having a hard time dealing with COVID? What is your advice about how you can take what you've learned as a tennis player and apply it into the challenges of life that's thrown at us with this pandemic today?
Yeah, this is all new for us. Everybody in business, everybody in the universe. This pandemic is new for folks, so you're having to deal with it the best you can. I think what we decided to do in my company was in March, when the pandemic hit and we realized it was going to shut down everything, we decided to take a contrarian approach to our business, and that was we called it a 2X. We had a meeting with everybody and said, all right, you don't have to come in the office, but we're expecting you to work twice as hard as you were working before, and we're going to go at this business twice as hard, because we think a lot of people are just going to just freak out and put their pencils down, is what we call it. And so, that attitude, we really worked hard. We're very busy, whereas a lot of our competitors aren't as busy right now. They decided to wait and see. We took the attitude that this was going to pass. It might pass in 12 months, but it might pass in 2 years, but we're going to be ready when it passes. And,
yes,
it's too easy to lay down and this is an opportunity to take advantage of, some people's decisions to just sit back and wait until it's corrected itself. And no one can decide when that's going to happen. So our business is busy. We're doing very well this year, but and it's not easy. It's a lot harder because you can't meet with people. You're doing all Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams and everything else, but it's odd. It's very odd. I'm about tired of it, if you want to know the truth. We're 7 months into this thing, and I think we'd all like for it to be over with. But it's out of our control, and we got to do the best we can, but we don't complain. Tennis teaches you not to complain. You got to be positive, because there are too many opportunities to lose in tennis. You lose a lot of points in tennis. So you can't complain, and you just got to take each day and be positive. I think that's what tennis taught me.
Well, we want to thank you. We're going to end the radio part of this, but we want to wish everyone, first of all, we're going to talk a little bit about 9/11 in the last few minutes, but remember all the Americans who died in 9/11. I want to wish all the players all the safety during the pandemic as we finish up the U.S. Open. And Andy, thank you for being an inspiration and such a real leader in North Carolina for our youth and for our colleges and players, and also for being just such a great friend of the Rao family. And hopefully we'll be celebrating many more memories together. But thank you. We'll be back next week for another edition of Radio's Murchie's Leaders and Legends. And this will be airing again on Sunday at 4 o'clock. And please be safe and remember to wear masks and social distance. And our aquatics and fitness center is now open. Brand new tennis courts, Andy. We got to bring you out there. Unbelievable courts. They look
That's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. So thank you, Murchie. We're going to continue for another 15 minutes on the Facebook stream. So thank you for being with us, folks. And we're going to now continue with Andy. So Andy, I guess the question I got to ask is, I want to get your perspective on 9/11, but Novak Djokovic. Now, I got to tell you, I normally listen to my own radio show on Sunday at 4, and I forgot, I got frozen on the screen, and I just was like, oh my God, please tell me that didn't happen. And then, you know, he got defaulted. So what is your thought on that? Did they do that?
Well, yeah, it's crazy. You know, all the players, as a player playing in a Grand Slam or big tournament, you know you can't turn around or hit a ball into the back fence because there are 3 linesmen and 2 ball boys back there. So you don't want to cause anybody any harm. You know, I honestly think he had been practicing for so long during the pandemic by himself, you know, with his team on empty courts and hadn't played a tournament that you get mad, you turn around and you slam a ball into the back fence. I honestly thought and think that's what happened to him. He forgot where he was.
Yeah.
He just hit the ball in the back fence. He was pissed off, and he hit the lady right in the throat. It was a bonehead move, and, you know, the rules state you're responsible for your actions, and he hit an umpire. He didn't do it intentionally, but he did do it. So they had to default him. It's a terrible thing. It's a disservice to the game. He obviously cost himself a lot of money and points. But I think the U.S. Open did the right thing. I'm sorry, a lot of people disagree with that, but they had to treat him like they'd treat anybody else, and they would have defaulted anybody else. So,
do you think that as someone that's been a player at a much higher level, and I know that if he had won the Open, he would have won 18. We don't know what would have happened with Medvedev and Thiem. You just never know. But could this be a setback for him as he chases the record? Or do you think that he'll put it behind him and he'll come back charging even harder for the next one?
I hope he does. I think McEnroe said it pretty clearly in the interview when Patrick asked John, you know, John, how long did it take you to get over some of your tantrums when you got in trouble at a tournament? And John said, well, that was 34 years ago, and I'm still not over them. And so, well, you know,
the French Open, where he got mad at the cameraman. And he was 2 sets up in a break, and he lost to Lendl, and that was like the breaking point for him. He never was the same after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some points. I mean, I don't know how he's going to respond. I think a lot of it's going to be dependent on how the crowd responds to him when he comes out and this pandemic is gone. If they treat him well or not, you know, there's you know, he has a problem out there anyway. You know, people don't know how to treat him because he's not, you know, he's not admired by the fans. He's not loved like Federer is. You know, Nadal is admired by everybody in the world because of how hard he works. And so I think he's in a very unusual position, and he didn't help himself at all.
What's your prediction for the Open right now, men's and women's? Who do you think? Who you calling?
Azarenka, I think, has got to win the women's. I don't know. It's going to be a great final, but what a great semifinal. Her and Serena, 2 moms who've done a great job of coming back, and both had adorable kids. That was a cute interview. They had both of them at different times. And on the men, you know, I think it's a toss-up. I think they're all so equal. I think Thiem is I don't know. I think he's got all the shots. I'm not sure if he's going to do it or not, but he's got all the shots. It's, you know, it is kind of cool though, because Djokovic got defaulted. Now you've got all these young guys who have a chance to win the U.S. Open and to become a Grand Slam winner. So that's pretty cool. It opened up the door, you know, for these guys. And, you know, my son said it best. You have to take advantage of your advantage. And that's a true statement. So here it is. You have no Grand Slam winner in the men's tournament, and you're in the semifinals. this might be your only chance to win a Grand Slam. You better step up.
What did I mean, yeah, so the pandemic, you know, they're not gonna have an Australian Open. I think they've already canceled it, so it'll just be French and hopefully Wimbledon. So the race for the all-time record continues. So it's really Federer, Nadal, Novak, if he can get back in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he'll come back. I think he's gonna have to maybe get a sports psychologist. I couldn't sleep that night. I was really upset just because I kept thinking, God, what is he thinking? To be defaulted like that and have to get back on a plane and go back home and it's just terrible.
Terrible, huh? He got.
Well, maybe he learned from it. Maybe he learned. Maybe he learned from his mistake and now he'll never do it again.
You know, I think it just was a
freak accident.
A freak accident.
Yeah, he didn't do it on purpose.
No,
he didn't hit that lady in the throat on purpose.
No, but we all know you can't do that. He should have just broken his racket. Been fun.
Yeah, he violated the rules. So let's talk a little bit about real quickly. You talked about. Let's talk. I got a couple of questions from juniors, tennis players. They're so excited. You're like their hero. My son is so excited that he knew his dad knows someone that played pro tennis. But one question came in from a kid. He said, you know, Andy, I hit really well. And then in a match, I just don't play as well as I hit. So how do I get through that? Is that just something by playing more matches? I keep telling the kids, but they're tired of hearing from me. They go, oh, Steve, you're just a city councilman. We want to hear from a guy that played in the pros.
Yeah, I don't know. You do. You're under a lot of pressure. Thanks for all you do with the city council. I think, yes, to answer the question simply, the more matches you play, the better you're going to get at playing matches. It is easier to be good in practice because there's no pressure. It really comes down to being used to being in that position. So if you've never been there before, it's hard to know how you're going to feel. And so you have to compete in more matches. And the more it's like the first time I ever walked on the court at the US Open, I couldn't even swallow. I was so nervous. I was just, it would be a lifelong dream. And then I finally got relaxed and I played pretty good tennis. The next year I was more comfortable coming at the US Open. And then the next year I was even more comfortable. So it's just the same in playing a junior tournament. Until you go out there and compete, you won't know how you feel. And then
I think in anything in life. Yeah, I mean, even for me, like I used to do, I got on the radio, and now I'm doing a lot more TV. But a lot of my colleagues, they don't understand how I can just look at the camera and just talk. Yeah. I'm just getting better because it's like practice. When you do 2 to 3 interviews a week, every week, then all of a sudden you don't realize that in 3 years I've done over 215 interviews. You're naturally going to be better than someone that's only done 5.
Exactly. It's
communication perspective, right?
It's the exact same thing. It's practice. It's also controlling your breathing. That's a big thing we talk about a lot in sports we talk controlling your breathing. And that is, taking long breaths, deep breaths in and then slowly exhaling. And that controls your heart rate a little bit. And so you work on that a lot because during a big point, you've got to be calm and know how to, handle that point. It's more important than to be jumpy and nervous like on TV in a big interview, big questions, things like that. You don't want to be stuttering or miss the opportunity. So it's all about controlling your emotions, and breathing does that.
We got a few more minutes with you. Just so many questions coming in. I guess you raised a good point about advice, right? And John Chambers, we hosted a startup summit. And he's from my home state of West Virginia. He's a family friend, and he gave some really great advice to our startup community. But the one thing he said that really got to me was that most great companies break away during a downturn. So he said the first thing you've got to do is get through your immediate cash flow challenges, operational challenges, cut your costs where you need to cut them long enough so that don't just keep cutting and then cutting, make them long-term cuts if you have to. But then if you can continue down the path, he says, do the Texas or Silicon Valley two-step, at least from a technology perspective, where you can dance to your investors and say, this is what we're going to look like when we break away. And I thought that was really good advice for all of us, right? Don't you agree with that as a CEO? That
it actually worked for us. We started our company in December of '06, approximately 6 months before the Great Recession crash. And we I didn't take a salary for 2 years. And we all had to suffer and chip in the best we could. And then by the time, the market started coming back, we were ready to go. We had worked through, we had slugged through, we were still positive. We didn't talk about being, oh, woe is me. We were really focused on staying positive and looking at our goals and looking to the future and what we were going to look like when the recession left. And that's exactly what happened to us. When the economy came back, we were ready to go, and we were in a great position, and we've not stopped since. So that's what this is how we're treating this pandemic. Same way.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Before we let you go, a couple more minutes. Talk to us about your most exciting projects. Last year, it seemed like a lifetime ago, I was there with Marianne Baldwin as a guest at the Raleigh, your big high-rise in Raleigh, but you just opened one up in Charlotte. So talk to us a little bit about some of these exciting projects that you're doing.
It's really cool. We're very fortunate to be able to develop and create these towers, and been very proud of them. The one we did in Raleigh is 22 stories, mixed use with apartments up top and office in the middle, and it received the first national award for being the greenest mixed use project in the United States. So we got 3 Green Globes, which is a designation for energy efficient buildings and protecting the environment. So that was really a cool step for us. And now we're delivering. We just topped out of our 30-story tower in Uptown Charlotte. And so we'll open that in March. And that too will be another green building. All of our buildings, all the developments I've done, which are over 39 right now, all of them are green. So we try to save as much water, use local materials, save energy, and do some pretty cool things. So we're very fortunate.
That's fantastic. Last 2 questions. This came from another junior that I work with in high school for tennis. They wanted to know, if you really want to play college tennis, what's the best advice you have now with the pandemic, with less tournaments and everything? I guess it's uncharted territory for you, but do they just play the tournaments they can, keep the ranking up? You've talked to my son about developing 2 weapons, a big forehand work. I mean, I don't have an answer to these kids. I mean, I just think you got to keep playing, and you just got to keep going at it.
Yeah, I think pick out. Everybody looks at going to college in a different way. Are there 5 colleges you'd like to go to, or is it just one? Would you consider, where do you want to look to go to college? In my mind, it's staying in touch with the coaches and letting them know what you're doing. Don't wait on the coaches to reach out to you. You reach out to the coaches, and you contact them and send them information on what you're doing and how you're working, and are you doing the right things? Are you staying in shape? Are you lifting weights to get stronger? Are you eating correctly? Are you working on your game, trying to get 1% better every day? Those things are imperative. And then obviously you can only play the tournaments you can play, but if there are tournaments available, you need to go play it.
Yeah, I mean, playing. That's what we're going to do. We're going to start getting in some UTRs. We talked about business. We talked about the game of life. The future of tennis in America looks like it's picking up. We've got more men coming at TFO, a lot of women coming up. The Orlando facility. Hopefully we'll get that USTA facility in Raleigh with Rob Autry. So you think American tennis is it's making its way back?
Yeah, I sure hope so. It's been a long time coming. I think the women, that there's more money on the women's tour than there is in any other women's sport. So that's a lot of things that are driving the women to play. It's a great way to make a living and see the world. The men, it's back when I was playing, there were a bunch of countries that couldn't play tennis, and so there weren't as many players back then. So that's why Americans had 42 players in the top 100, and I think there's just more competition for U.S. kids. we have a lot of sports for kids to play. Tennis is very difficult. It's hard. And so I think a lot of the men, opt for other sports, but it's a great sport. It's a sport of a lifetime. And I think America's coming back. We got some good kids. So I'm really proud of the girls.
I hadn't played in almost 9 years after I got elected, and now I haven't missed a day since COVID. I've been playing every day with my son. I got in the league again, and been running, and I just feel physically I'm the best shape I've been in years.
Well, I can do it for you. It's a quick exercise, isn't it?
It's a quick exercise. You work different muscles, and I feel like I sleep better at night. There's a kind of feeling of,
unless you lose.
Well, the thing is, focusing on the ball gets your mind off of things.
Yes, it does.
Whether you're golfing or tennis,
Yes.
that's different than just running, where you're still thinking while you're running. So,
Yep.
I feel like one last question. Once Serena and Venus retire, who do you think is going to be the rising U.S. women? Coco Gauff, Jennifer Brady, I guess, would be another one, right?
Yeah, she really shined at the U.S. Open, right? She kind of came out and showed how great a player she is. I think you got Susan Rogers, and you got, I think that's hard to tell. It's hard to pick a champion. The Williams sisters have been such great champions for so long, and they are aging. But I can't pick a U.S. champion, but I think Coco has got a lot of abilities, and you just got some great women players right now. So especially from the U.S. So I think it'll be a unique next 3 years to see who rises to the top.
Oh man, that'll be fantastic. Well, my last question, and we'll let you go, is we want to just pray for everyone that suffered through 9/11, the victims, the families, and for those of you listening, you can just go to the Morrisville Benevolence Fund or find an organization that you can contribute for our first responders. But my question is, where were you during 9/11? Where I was, someone wants to know where you were and how it affected the tennis industry back then.
Yeah, in 9/11, on the day 9/11 happened, I was in Birmingham, Alabama, at the company that I worked for. We were having a conference meeting, and it happened, and I called the airport right away, got a car, drove home, not knowing what was going to happen. All flights were canceled, but I thought it was important to be at home with my family. It's pretty, I'm a real American. I'm very fortunate to live and live in this great country and work in this great country. And what happened was, it was devastating, and to all the people that died in it, it's worse. One of the greatest museums I've ever been to in my life is the 9/11 Museum in New York. It is by far one of the most emotional hours and a half you'll ever have in a museum. But I'll never forget that day, like most of us, and then the days after, seeing all the impact that it had to this country. So we got to take care of this country, and we live in a great place.
Hour and a half, but we want to thank you for all of your time, for your friendship, your support, the great work you've done in Morrisville, your company around the state, Raleigh, Charlotte, and hopefully we can meet at our favorite place in Raleigh on Glenwood Avenue to eat and to sit down and talk. And
yeah,
I mean,
solve all the problems of the world, right?
Well, this Brady Bunch screen thing, I'm about tired of it. I mean,
me too.
I mean, I don't care what anybody says. There's nothing like seeing someone in person.
Yeah.
Feeding up that person's energy than seeing someone on a computer screen.
Keep doing what you're doing, Steve. Thank you for all you do, and appreciate you.
Thank you. Everyone, we pray for everyone in 9/11. God bless America. Think about how great a country you are, and let's work together to be united and make a difference. And Andy, thank you. Be safe.
See you, Steve.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
See you. Bye now.